helped Michael do a magic trick in the Bad Tour as well as a Dangerous Tour. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
On the Bad Tour, we had a similar kind of thing where he would walk up some steps, curtain would fall, the curtain would raise up into the air. I would pull a string and then he wasn't there anymore. He was somewhere else. Very similar to what we did on the Dangerous Tour, except it was a seat. On the Bad Tour, there was an instance, it's probably the only time I ever heard him raise his voice, where the curtain came down and then it came down again. So he was still there. So he just, being the pro that he is, walked down the steps, almost tripped, which was, I'm glad he didn't, but walked down the steps. And then after the show, everybody involved with the trick was called into a meeting and he was pacing and he was basically telling us how that can never happen again. It never happened on the other tours. So we have to make sure. There was a particular crew person who decided to kind of throw me under the bus and said he pulled the wrong rope. And I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, no. And I was like, we can go back and watch the video if you want, it's like, but I was like, what is going on? So after the meeting, I was scared I was going to lose my job. I was shaking. And I went into one of the bathrooms in the arena and Greg Fillinganes came in. He goes, are you okay? I said, no. I said, he goes, don't worry. He goes, nothing's going to happen. He goes, you can't be replaced. That crew guy can get replaced. You can't get replaced. So that dude, whatever he said, because I was like, I don't know why he would say, he goes, well, they can replace him tomorrow if they need to.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. And he goes, I'm sorry that happened. He goes, don't worry. It'll be fine. And I that type of encouragement from Greg really meant a lot to me. Again, this goes back to people treating us like we're family.
Right.
And then I remember the tour manager, I think it was Benny. Benny came up to me and he's like, hey, and I was like, look, I don't really want to do the magic trick. I'm a dancer. And obviously, if people don't think I can, give it to somebody else. And then nobody wanted to do the magic trick. Everybody's like, no. So then Benny came back and he's like, hey, look, nobody's going to be able to, you've been doing this. And I said, well, I don't want to ever get in trouble for something that I didn't do, so if anything goes wrong, I just don't ever want to be in that room ever again. He goes, okay, deal. I was like, okay. I was like, you can talk to me about it, but I don't want to be in that room.
Right.
And
that's a lot of pressure.
It was. And then we found out it was a faulty hook, which was, guess whose job? The crew guy. Mm-hmm.
And he tried to throw you under the bus.
He totally did. And okay, now this is probably not one of my finest moments, but it's kind of funny. So I remember the next show after they had fixed it, I pulled the rope. I grabbed it with my middle finger on purpose, looking at him. And it was like, because you're 18, why would you? And I was and then I was angry. And then it's the same thing. You just have to learn, you don't panic. If there's something goes wrong, you just have to deal with it.
Right.
On the second tour, they came up, the very first person they walked up, they're like, hey, we have this idea. And I was like, okay, here are the rules for me. I don't mind doing it as long as I don't get blamed for anything. I just have to know how to do everything. And if anything goes wrong, I don't want to be in the meeting. You can tell me about it. You can tell me I don't mind if I do something wrong, you can totally tell me, but I'm all about details. So I'm really going to try never to do something wrong. Same deal. It was cool. I forget who did the first one. I know on the second tour, it was David Copperfield's crew came in and set up.
Was it Franz Harari?
Possibly, because I remember meeting him. I met Siegfried and Roy came in and helped us with stuff.
Okay.
There were different groups that helped with different parts of the show. So I don't remember which groups. I remember Franz was really nice. Siegfried and Roy were super, super nice. Copperfield, I didn't really get to have many conversations with him. He just kind of came in, watched it, and peaced out. His crew guys were really super nice. The guys that, and they taught me how to do certain things to sell the illusion.